Chapter 5 The Rudiments of Social Organization. Socrates has been challenged to define justice and its effects in the individual soul, since the life of a political society manifests the life of the men composing it on a larger scale. He proposes to look first for the principle which makes a state just, and then to see if the same principle has similar effects in a man. So he starts to build up a social structure from its necessary rudiments. Plato is not here describing the historical development of any actual state. In Laws 3, he states that civilization has often been destroyed by natural cataclysms, and he traces its growth from a simple pastoral phase on lines, quite unlikely those followed here. He takes the type of state in which he lived, and the Greek city-state. The construction is based on an analysis of such a society into parts corresponding to fundamental needs of human nature. These parts are put together successfully in a logical, not a historical, order. As against the social contract theory, Plato denies that society is unnatural, either as being the artificial outcome of an arbitrary compact or as thwarting the individual's natural instincts, which Thrasymachus assumed to be purely egoistic, impulses of unlimited self-assertion. Men are not born self-sufficient or all alike, hence an organized society in which they are interdependent and specialized according to innate aptitudes is, according to Plato, both natural and advantageous to all individuals. In this chapter, society is considered merely as an economic structure providing for the lowest of needs a healthy animal existence. This aspect is isolated by abstraction from the higher elements of civilization and culture that will soon be added. The purpose is to establish the principle of specialization or division of labor as dictated by nature. This will turn out to be the form that justice takes on this lower economic level. Nothing is said here about slaves, perhaps because they would first appear in the luxurious state of the next chapter in any case of slaves, who at Athens made up more than a third of the population. Meaning were not citizens and so formed no part of the state. The institution was universally recognized, and Plato seems to assume that it will continue. For instance, at 469 see page 172. I was delighted with these speeches from Glaucon and Adeimatus, whose gifts I had always admired. How right, I exclaimed, was Glaucon's lover to begin that poem of his on your exploits at the battle of Megara by describing you two as the sons divine of Ariston's noble line, like father, like sons. There must indeed be some divine quality in your nature. If you can plead the cause of injustice so eloquently, and still not be convinced yourself that it's better than justice, then you're not really convinced. I'm sure from all I know from your depositions, the words might well have left me in doubt, but the more I trust you, the harder I might find it to reply. How can I come to the rescue? I have no faith in my own powers when I remember that you were not satisfied with the proof I thought I had given to Thrasymachus that it is better to be just, and yet I cannot stand by and hear justice reviled without lifting a finger. I am afraid to commit a sin by holding aloof while I have breath and strength to say a word in its defense, so there is nothing for it but to do the best I can. Glaucon and the others begged me to step into the breach and carry through our inquiry into the real nature of justice and injustice and the truth about our respective advantages. So I told them what I thought. This is a very obscure question, I said, and we shall need keen sight to see our way. Now, as we're not remarkably clever, I will make a suggestion as to how we should proceed. Imagine a rather short-sighted person told to read an inscription in small letters from some way off. He would need a godsend if someone pointed out that the same inscription was written up elsewhere on a bigger scale, so that he would first read the larger characters and then make out Whether the smaller ones were the same, no doubt, said Admetus. But what analogy do you see that to our inquiry? I'll tell you. We think of justice as a quality that may exist in a whole community, as well as an individual, and the community is the bigger of the two. Possibly then we may find justice there in larger proportions easier to make out. So I suggest that we should begin by inquiring what justice means in a state, that we can go on to look for its counterpart on a smaller scale in the individual. That seems like a good plan, he agreed. Well, then, I continued, suppose we imagine a state coming into being before our eyes. We might then be able to watch the growth of justice or of injustice within. When that is done, we may hope it is easier to find what we're looking for. Much easier. Shall we try? Then to carry out this scheme, I fancy it be more light undertaking. So you had better think twice. No need for that, said Admetus. Don't waste any more time. My notion is, said I, that a state comes into existence because no individual is self-sufficient. We all have many needs, but perhaps you could suggest some different origin for the foundation of a community? No, I agree with you. So having all these needs, we call in one others, help to satisfy our various requirements, and then we have collected a number of helpers and associates to live together in one place. We call that settlement a state. Yes. So if one man gives another what he has to give in exchange for what he can get, it is because each finds that to do so is for his own advantage. Certainly. Very well, said I. So let us build up our imaginary state from the beginning. Apparently it will owe its existence to our needs, the first and greatest need being the provision of food to keep us alive. Next we shall want a house, and thirdly such things as clothing. True. How will our state be able to supply all these demands? We shall need at least one man to be a farmer, another a builder, and third a weaver. Will that do, or shall we add a shoemaker, and one or two more to provide for our own personal wants? By all means. The minimum state then will consist of 4 to 5 men. Apparently, now here is a further point. Is each one of them to bring the product of his own work into a common stock? Should our one farmer, for example, provide food enough for 4 people and spend the whole of his working time in producing corn so as to share with the rest, or should he take no notice of them and spend only a quarter of his time on growing just enough corn for himself, and divide the other 3 quarters between building his house and weaving his clothes and making his shoes, so as to save the trouble of sharing the others and attend himself to all of his own concerns? The first plan might be the easier, replied Idomeneus. All may very well be so, said I, for as you spoke it occurred to me for one thing that no 2 people are born exactly alike. Their innate differences will fit them for different occupations. I agree. And will a man do better working at trades or keeping to one only? Keeping to one. And there is another point. Obviously, work may be ruined if you let the right time go by. The workman must wait upon the work. It will not wait upon his leisure and allow itself to be done in a spare moment. So the conclusion is that more things will be produced and the work will be more easily and better done when every man is set free from all their other occupations to do at the right time the one thing for which he is naturally fitted. This is certainly true. We shall need more than 4 citizens then to supply all those necessaries we mentioned. You see, Admetus, if the farmer is to have a good plow and spade and other tools, he will not make them himself. No more will the builder and the weaver and the shoemaker make all the way implements they need. So quite a number of carpenters and smiths and other craftsmen must be enlisted. Our miniature state is beginning to grow. It is. Still, it is not be very large, even when we have added cowherds and shepherds to provide the farmers with oxen for the plow, and the builders as well as the farmers with draught animals, and the weavers and the shoemakers with wool and leather. No, but it will not be so very small either. And yet again, it will be next to impossible to plant our city in a territory where it will need no imports. So there will have to be still another set of people to fetch what it needs from one country, from other countries. There will, moreover, if these agents take with them nothing than those other countries require in exchange, they will return as empty-handed as they went. So, besides everything wanted for consumption at home, we must produce enough goods of the right hand for the foreigners whom we spend on to supply us. That will mean increasing the number of farmers and craftsmen. Yes, and then there are these agents who are to import and export all kinds of goods, merchants, as we call them. We must have them. And if they're to know business overseas, we shall need a number of ship owners and others who know about that branch of trading. We shall. Again, in the city itself, how are the various sets of producers to exchange their products? That was our subject. That was our object. You will remember, in forming a community and so laying the foundation of our state. Obviously, they must buy and sell. That will mean having a marketplace and a currency to serve as a token for purposes of exchange. Certainly. Now, suppose a farmer or artisan brings some of his produce to market at a time when no one is there who wants to exchange with him. Is he to sit there idle when he might be at work? No, he replied. There are people who have seen an opening here for their services. In well-ordered communities, there are generated men not strong enough to be of use in any other occupation. They have to stay where they are in the marketplace and take goods for money from those who want to sell, and money for goods from those who want to buy. That, then, is the reason why our city must include a class of shopkeepers. So we call these people who sit still in the marketplace to buy and sell, in contrast with merchants who travel to other countries. Quite so. There are also the services of yet another class, who have the physical strength for heavy work, though at intellectual grounds they are hardly worth including in our society. Hired laborers, as we call them, because they sell the use of their strength for wages. They will go to make up our population. Yes, well, Adeimantus, has our state now grown to its full size? Perhaps. Then where in it shall we find justice or injustice? If they have come in with one of the elements we have been considering, can you say which one? Can you say with which one? I have no idea, Socrates, unless it's to be somewhere in our dealings with one another. You may be right, I answered. Anyhow, it is a question which we shall have to face. Thank you.